Alright, so a guy goes to the doctor's office. He's got a carrot in one ear, celery in another, and a mushroom up his nose. And he goes, "Doc, what's wrong with me?" And the doctor says, "Well, for starters, you're not eating right." And so a lot of us can have different ideas on what eating right is. What's healthy for you, what's not, what you should eat for this, what you should eat for that. But today I would like to persuade you that a plant-based diet or vegan diet is not only sustainable in terms of protein, but is also healthy for you. I'm going to do this by looking at 3 points. The first one being the American diet and a misconception on nutrition. The second being health benefits of being vegan, and the third one being personal testimonies. So in case I lost you the moment I said vegan, I'd like to reel you in right now by telling you that all of you are on a diet right now. No matter what you eat, whether it's meat or just vegetables, a lot of fruit, a lot of junk food, we're all on a diet. And a diet means the food that a person habitually eats. And the diet that we eat is normally influenced by culture, and I don't think McDonald's or obesity need any introduction with you guys. We all know that Americans tend to be more on the heavy side or overweight, and that Western countries tend to eat a lot more than other countries, and they tend to eat a lot more meat. According to the USDA, in 2000, the average person ate 195 pounds of meat and 593 pounds of dairy. That is more than 3 times my weight. So why so much meat and dairy products? Well, it's not because people like them, although they do. It's because of the protein that we need, and in our bodies we need to replace the amino acids, and it's very vital that we get protein. In the book, The China Study, it is outlined that the Dutch chemist Gerard Mulder first discovered protein. And protein actually comes from the Greek word proteos, which means of prime importance. And ever since that point of time, people have been convinced that in order to get protein, you also need to eat meat and animal flesh. However, this synonymousness with meat and protein is false. You can get protein from any source of your diet, from any area of the food pyramid, whether that's fruits or vegetables or grains. Protein is all around you, and you don't need meat to get it. So, because plant-based eaters eat more plants, which is fruits and vegetables, it makes sense that they have more vitamins in their diet. That's kind of obvious logic, that they'd be a little bit more healthy that way. But I'd like to turn to the realm of science to better understand some of these positive effects. So researcher T. Colin Campbell, who is a biochemistry PhD from Cornell University, who has taught at Cornell, MIT, and Virginia Tech, he has done numerous studies on this subject, and he believes that you can not only reverse disease, but he believes that you can reverse cancer. And I'd like to look at 2 of his studies that he did on rats. So the first study, he has 2 groups of rats. One is fed 20% protein diet, and one is fed a 5% protein diet, and they are both exposed to something called aflatoxin, which is a cancer-causing substance. And with both of the groups, he found out that foci, which are precursors to tumor cells, so these cells that indicate whether a tumor will grow and if you'll get cancer, he discovered that the development was almost entirely dependent on how much protein was consumed, regardless of how much of the toxin they were exposed to. So no matter how much of the cancer-causing substance they were exposed to, it was dependent on how much protein they were ingesting to how much it would grow. And that's because cancer growth, there's things called promoters and anti-promoters. So you can ingest things that promote cancer or don't promote cancer. And through this, he proved that a certain rate of protein will increase your chances of developing cancer further once you've been introduced to it. And after further experimentation, he found that plant protein causes no cancer growth even at the highest levels of intake. And so the second study I'd like to look at is also a 20% and 5% protein diet for the rats. And when they were able to be on an exercise wheel voluntarily, so when they were allowed to exercise, the ones with the 5% diet exercised for longer and with less fatigue. that sounds pretty good to be able to exercise longer with less fatigue. And that leads me to my third point, which is personal testimonies. The first person who I'd like to talk about is Tia Blanco. She is a 16-year-old surfer on the Surfing American team, and she went from being a vegetarian to a vegan after reading the book The China Study by T. Colin Campbell. And when she was asked if a vegan diet was enough for a top professional surfer, she said yes. In fact, I feel more energized than ever before. I rarely ever feel sore after my workouts. I also find myself reaching a higher athletic level. And that quote is courtesy of One Green Planet. The next person is Venus Williams. She is a top tennis player. She was actually diagnosed with Sjogren's syndrome, and she realized that something was wrong with her after she was getting shortness of breath, fatigue, and muscle pain. And they checked it out, and it turns out she had this syndrome, and she decided to take on a vegan diet. And after 7 months of rehabilitating and having this diet, she made the biggest jump of any top player in 2011, going from not even being on the top 100 list of tennis players to being number 24. The last person who I'd like to highlight is Patrick Babomia. He was Germany's strongest man in 2011. He also set the world record for the yoke walk, which is when there's a contraption that sort of looks like a yoke, and you have weights on either side, and you walk for a certain distance. He set the world record for this, and after finishing that walk, he turned to the crowd and said, "This is a message to all those out there who think that you need animal products to be fit and strong." Again, another quote from the website One Green Planet. So now we've seen that this diet is not only sustainable in terms of protein amount, but it's also healthy for you and can promote many benefits that obviously these top professional athletes are taking hold of. So I want you to change your beliefs, whatever beliefs that you had on plant-based or veganism or vegetarianism, and see that this is a very valid diet and it promotes a lot of positive benefits, and that there's no lack of any proteins or nutrients that you need. That is a very healthful lifestyle. And I even want you to think about the bigger picture of how culture can influence how we think about food. Some people think that obviously that we need meat to get protein. And I want you guys to think about in your own lives how you think about food and maybe the misconceptions or assumptions that you have on food, and be open to the possibilities that things are not always as they seem.
Stephanie, what did you think?
I like the beginning. It starts with an interesting joke. I like that you realize that this is a topic that's difficult to handle because a lot of people don't find it attractive, or they just think it's a new trend and people jump on it without really thinking about it. I was really persuaded by the posts from the athletes, because these are people that trigger their physical, their body in rather ways that the average person would. And if it works for them, why should it work on people like us that don't spend all of our day exercising? The thing that I think that I probably needed from the speech is maybe implying what would be the financial cost of being a vegan, like what are the prices for the tofu that could be replaced for meat, or what would be the monthly cost for a person, because most of us think that it would be more expensive, and that could be a way to not be as interested on it. But overall, I liked the speech. I thought it was fluent, and I like it that she didn't focus on the animal suffering part, which we all know is that way, but I like the speech.
All right. Yeah, I like the joke too. It's corny as heck, but that's okay. it worked. I thought you had a good setup of what the content was going to be. It's well organized. I think the third point, just being a series of endorsements, is a little bit problematic. I think you do set up a need early on that suggests that our protein requirements can be met by plant-based diets, and the only proof that we get on that then are the examples that you cite here. I mean, there's a little bit of proof. Most of the proof on that long study that you cited had to do with cancer-causing behaviors as opposed to whether the diet would be sufficient to, in other words, how much protein can we get. I don't know what the equivalent in rat food is to human food, but that was the big question that popped in my head immediately, because you said right early on that people should be able to get adequate protein from a plant-based diet. And I'm going, okay, so let's see some examples of that. Let's hear some statistics on that. And they didn't really get any of that information. The closest we got, like I said before, were the athletes that you cited. And you know, those are interesting cases, but it's awfully hard to draw a generalization from 3 examples, including one of them who's a 16-year-old who perhaps it might be a little early in our judgment as to whether or not this has been effective for a period of time. And of course they seem to be exceptional cases also. But the reason you use the exceptional cases, though, is that they're things that people would listen to, and I like that. So there's something there. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have used those. I'm just saying I think there needs to be something more on those particular points. I thought you delivered the speech pretty well. The eye contact is a little inconsistent, but it wasn't flawed. It just needs to be a little stronger. You did a good job using your voice. I thought you gestured and positioned yourself where you were speaking very effectively. You cited your information reasonably well, although it sounds like you're putting a lot of eggs in one basket, although that wouldn't be vegan. With the guy, the study, who wrote the book, and I can't even remember the name of the book, something China, right? Wasn't that it?
China study.
The China study, yeah, that sort of thing. So I like the fact that you tried to qualify him, though, pretty well. I mean, you give us all kinds of information about who he is and where he's taught and what his expertise is, and you give us some good information about, you know, kind of what the study's involved, and I like that. But I think your proof needs to be a little bit broader based. All right, thank you.